Welcome in the class 10th Democratic Politics Part 2. The first part of the democratic politics you have studied in the class 9th, and the second part you are going to study in this book. The journey of democracy, which we started last year, it will be end this year with the last chapter. In the first chapter, we are going to study about the power sharing. An intelligent sharing of power among legislature, executive and judiciary is very important to design of a democracy. While we are studying about the democracy, an intelligent power sharing is a needing. With the French Revolution, we have studied the power should be distributed in three organs: legislature, executive, and judiciary. About all these three organs, we have studied in a different way in the political science also and in the history also. In this and the next two chapters, we carry this idea of power sharing forward. The power sharing is important and how could it happen? What steps should be taken? That all we are going to study in this and these two upcoming chapters. We start with two stories from Belgium and Sri Lanka. Our journey starts about it to study the two stories, Belgium and Sri Lanka. What is the demand of the democracy and how the demands are handled by these two countries? As an example, we are going to study about the power sharing. So power sharing is important. We will study in this lesson. In this part, we are going to study about the Belgium. Belgium is the very small country in the Europe continent. In this map, you are looking the Belgium. It is bordered by the Netherlands, Germany, Luxembourg, and France. So this is very small country having differences, diversity in the language speakers, ethnic groups. So every ethnic group's demand is different. How this country dealt with these demands, we will study in this part, in this chapter, how the power sharing is important. With this example, we will study. The ethnic composition of the Belgium we will see through this map. In this map, it is shown clearly the people, those who are living in the Flemish region, they were 59%. These 59% were speaking Dutch language. In the Wallonia region, the 40% people were speaking French language. 59 Dutch, 40 French, and 1% German. So this was the composition of the Belgium in the countryside, in the other part of the country. But in the capital, the picture was a different, opposite picture. In the capital city, 80% were speaking French language and 20% were speaking Dutch language. So in capital, French were majority and Dutch were in a minority. And in a country, the French were in a minority and Dutch were in a majority. This was the complexity, this was the difficulty in the Belgium. The minority French speaking community was relatively rich and powerful. The reason for the tension was the minority French were rich and powerful, and the majority Dutch got the benefit of economic development much later. So this was the reason for the tension. This led to tension between the Dutch-speaking and French-speaking communities during the 1950s and 1960s. The tension became acute in the decade of 1950s and 60s. Acute pointed more sharp. Brussels presented a special problem. The problem was countryside different and in a Brussels different. In a capital, The French were in a majority and Dutch were in a minority. And in a countryside, Dutch were in a majority, French were in a minorities. This is why the tension increased in a Belgium. So how this country dealt with this problem? How they solved this problem and became the developed country in the world, we will see in this part with the accommodation of Belgium. Before that, we will see what was happened in the Sri Lanka. The another country we are going to study in this lesson, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a island country. It is very close to the India from Tamil Nadu on a few kilometers this country. Like other Asian countries, there is a variation in the communal composition in the Sri Lanka. So this communal composition, what problems brought there and what changes had happened in this country, we are going to see. This country size is about the same as Haryana. The country is having vast as the like Haryana. The major social groups are the Sinhalas. The country is divided. The population is divided in a different parts, different groups. The most important group is the Sinhala group. The Sinhala group contributes 74%. The ethnic communities of the Sri Lanka. The another country, the second example, what we are going to study in this lesson, that is the Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka also the ethnic composition was a different, difficult. In the Sri Lanka, the Sinhalas were 74%. 74% people of the country of the Sri Lanka were speaking Sinhala language. Then Tamil speakers. 18% people were Tamil speakers. But these Tamil speakers again divided in a two part. Altogether they were 18%, but they again divided in a two part. The Tamils were grouped in two groups. One is the native Tamils, they were contributing 13%. Another group is the Indian Tamils, they were contributing 5%. So these native Tamils 13% and Indian Tamils 5%. The Indian Tamils, these people came in the Sri Lanka in the period of colonial period. The Britishers brought these people as a labor, plantation labor from India to Tamil. So these were the Indian Tamils. Tamil are Hindus or Muslims. There are about 7% Christians who are both Tamil and Sinhalas. Another one group, this was the 7%, these were the Christians. They were speaking Tamil also and Sinhala also, and 1% Muslims. This was the ethnic composition communities of the Sri Lanka.